This video lecture has been produced using artificial intelligence with the supervision of Belhaven faculty. In our session today, we're going to examine a really critical tool for any school that's serious about growth, the timeline. We're going to explore how a well-designed timeline does more than just schedule events. It can actually transform continuous school improvement into a powerful, unified engine for change.
Our main objectives are twofold. First, we're going to summarize the strengths and, of course, the challenges of implementing a timeline. And second, we'll generate some practical ways to allocate the time needed for this work, which, as you know, can be a real challenge in a busy school environment.
All right, let's get into it. You know, it's really easy to mistake a timeline for just a simple schedule, but for continuous school improvement, it has to be so much more than that. It's better to think of it as a dynamic framework. Its real purpose is to communicate the why behind all this work, to align the entire staff, to make sure data is being used effectively, and to build the organizational support to make it all stick. Okay, so let's start at the very beginning. The first part of this framework is all about laying the groundwork for the year. A surprising amount of the most important work actually happens before students even walk in the door. This is the time to organize all of the school's existing data into clear graphs and profiles. And a really crucial step here is assigning a data leadership team. This team has the specific job of analyzing historical data and reporting on past results. This ensures that every decision we make moving forward is grounded in actual evidence. Now, as the school year gets underway, the circle widens to include everyone. The whole staff meeting becomes the central event. During this time, the leadership team doesn't just present the framework. They guide the entire staff through an interactive data analysis session. Everyone looks at the school's data together to identify strengths and challenges. This creates a shared understanding, which is absolutely key for the next step, collectively figuring out the root causes of any undesirable results. Once we have that school-wide perspective, the focus then narrows right down to the classroom level. We have to be very clear about how teachers will work with data every single day. This really comes down to answering 4 fundamental questions. First, what do students need to know? What are our essential standards? Second, how will we know they've learned it? What are our common assessments? And third, what will we do if they don't learn it or if they already know it? And finally, what are the most effective teaching strategies to get the results we want? Soon after the year starts, it's time to look beyond the academic data and gather what we call perception data, the human side of the school experience. The process begins with deciding on the right questionnaire. Then it's administered in a specific sequence, first to staff, then to students, and finally to parents. Using technology here is really a game changer. It allows for very quick analysis. And the point here isn't to create some report that sits on a shelf. The goal is to use these insights in near real time as a tool for continuously improving the school climate. And this brings us right to the heart of the entire model. We're now shifting away from that initial planning phase and into the living, breathing, continuous cycle of ongoing action. This ongoing phase is truly the engine of the whole process. It's a constant loop. At the student level, it means teachers are monitoring progress and reviewing results in their teams to decide who needs more support. At the same time, at the system level, those teams are reviewing subject area data, updating curriculum maps, and making sure every program is still aligned with the school's overall vision. This is where the real work happens, day in and day out. What's so important about this framework is how it redefines professional learning. These aren't just one-off training days. They are the strategic engine that fuels all that ongoing work we just talked about. This is the protected time to revisit the mission and vision, to define the school's core values, and to build a deep, shared understanding of the curriculum. This is also where goals are set and refined, and, critically, where leadership roles and responsibilities are made crystal clear for everyone. And that brings us to the final phase of the annual cycle, which is all about reflection and evolution, assessing our progress and planning for what comes next. As the school year concludes, the staff comes together again to review the year's data. But this reflection is not just about looking backward. It serves 2 critical forward-looking purposes. First, it helps clarify any new professional learning needs for the staff. And second, it allows everyone to determine what changes might be needed to the school's vision and the improvement plan for the following year. This is what closes the loop and sets the stage for the cycle to begin all over again. This chart does a fantastic job of pulling everything we've discussed into one picture. Let's just walk through it for a moment. If you look down the vertical axis on the left, you can see the different phases, starting with before the school year and moving all the way down to the end of the year. Now look across the columns at the top. You see the different groups, the data leadership team, the whole staff, and the teacher teams. The real power of this visual is that it shows you how the work of each group interlocks at each specific phase of the year, creating a single cohesive system. So what's the purpose of all this structure? Well, it comes down to this. The ultimate goal is to move a school from being an organization that simply complies with requirements to becoming a true learning organization, one that has the internal capacity to create the results that it truly desires for its students. So, as we wrap up, I'll leave you with a couple of questions to think about. First, why is having a structured timeline like this so important for school improvement? And second, what is the right balance between the work that's best handled by a smaller team versus the work that really needs the engagement of the entire staff? To continue with this unit, please be sure to complete the reading and writing assignments and answer the discussion questions. The concepts presented here are drawn from the work of these key scholars in the field of educational data and school improvement. And finally, the images and figures used in this presentation were adapted from Bernhardt's Data Analysis for Continuous School Improvement.